very relevant to what we are happening right now. I'd like to add that by June 16 to 18, AIIB is holding its second annual governors meeting in Jeju, Korea. So welcome again to this briefing. NGO Forum has been monitoring the Asian Development Bank since 1992. And you will wonder why are we doing the same thing for AIIB. First and foremost, because it's going to be affecting a lot of communities in Asia. So we are binded to be able to monitor this bank. We are here to share with you some of our experiences so far and what we feel should be done by AIIB as well. Here to do this, we have Ann Pereiras, our policy coordinator on ADB in NGO Forum. I am Luz Julieta Lichard. I am the policy coordinator for AIIB, and Professor Dr. Taben, who is a member of the International Committee of the Forum. You are provided some materials there for further information that you might need, and we will be presenting a little bit of a background, and then we will open the forum or the question and answer so that you can clarify further. So if you can hold some of your questions there, then we can deepen further any of your clarifications if you have any. Okay, I'd like to start with providing you a background on what is AIIB and what you should or what you need to know. Next slide. Okay, so you here see the picture of the members who were present during the first AGM that was held in Beijing. So AIIB was formally introduced. It took around 2 years before it started, but it was formally introduced in January of 2016. Right now, its headquarters is in Beijing, China, but it has a non-resident board. During its first AGM, it had 57 what they call founding members, prospective founding members, 20 from 34 from the regional, meaning from Asia, and 23 from the non-regional. The Philippines, having finally be part of it, is now part of that membership. At the moment, as of May this year, there is a total of 77 members already. And they are projecting that by the end of this year, there will be 85. When it started in 2016, a total of 23 approved projects were already underway. They focus on these sectors of energy and power, transportation and telecommunications, rural infrastructure and agricultural development, water supply and sanitation, environmental protection, and urban development. You have been provided a list of these projects there, and you will see that most of them are really on energy and on infrastructure. Composed of board governors appointed by each country member, it has its non-resident board of directors responsible for the operations of the bank. Then they have the senior management composed of the president. They have 5 vice presidents and a general counsel and the international advisory panel for strategies and policies. Next slide. The bank commenced its operation an estimated 21 trillion financing gap between the region's demand for infrastructure projects. This was, so the focus of AIIB is actually on infrastructure, and they want to fill in this gap. Core principles of openness, transparency, and independence, that is why they have this logo they call lean, clean, and green. China is by far the biggest shareholder, and therefore has a large percentage of the voting rights. Now, I have here a little bit of an indication of how far things are. It says that China has so much shareholding that it has overpassed Japan and the US among the other MDBs, and even more than Japan in ADB. So right now, it has a very big voting power in the AIIB. Next slide. Now, with the bank's stated aim to combine China's core competencies in building infrastructure, we see that AIIB and establishment is going to help the construction along the One Belt, One Road project. It is now called the Belt and Road Initiative. In terms of both geography, look at the memberships that we have here. Between the OBOR or the BRI routes, you see that this is the same areas covered by the AIIB membership. But we want to point out that they are quite different from each other, and they don't have any formal relationship with each other. This is the route of the Belt Road Initiative. It's called the Silk Road Economic Belt and the 21st Century Maritime Silk Road. It is going to open up a lot of corridors and a lot of transboundary projects. What are the risks? An increase in infrastructure or in financing of large projects comes with potentially significant social and environmental risks. Chinese companies and financial institutions are still developing their capacities in dealing with this. In fact, in their own country, they are still cleaning up a lot of these projects that they have started. The OBOR or the BRI vision makes general commitment to environmental and social responsibility, but has no binding framework. So far, this is our critique. It is a very big vision, a very grand vision, but it has no clear mechanisms for implementing them. In fact, so far there are no binding relationships that have been established. I think with the forum that was held last May in Beijing, this was the start of the discussions that they're going to have. But if risks are not managed appropriately, it could lead to pollution, badly managed displacement, social conflict, and political tension.
Alright, so for the next part of this press briefing, so Ma'am Luz have already established why do we need to monitor the Asian infrastructure investment banks. And we have an overview of our concerns and the risks on infrastructure problems. And in this presentation, what I would want to highlight is that these infrastructure risks and problems are actually anchored on our experiences in monitoring the Asian Development Bank. So this is just a glimpse of the data and information that we have in terms of the rationale provided by the multilateral development banks in terms of what exactly is the infrastructure needs in Asia. So it is expected to grow by 7% to 8% a year over the next decade, approaching $5.36 trillion annually by 2025, and representing nearly 60% of the world's total. Asian infrastructure investment increased between 2009 and 2013, accounting for more than 50% of the global increase in capital spending. Next, please. So, as a result, ADB provided this data that in order to maintain this current levels of economic growth, Asia will need to spend approximately $8 trillion to fill in these infrastructure gaps. Further, to sustain this growth, it will be necessary to inject between $800 billion to $1.3 trillion annually to infrastructure projects between now and 2020. So as you can see, all of this data that's being projected by the multilateral development banks on why do we need to fill in this infrastructure gap. But then at the same time, there is lack of emphasis also on the risks of infrastructure that will be also part of this booming infrastructure. And in that also, there's a failure on the part of multilateral development banks, ADB, in what we have seen so far, in also ensuring that the rights of the potentially affected people and the environment are also protected. So that's where we are coming in terms of monitoring not only the Asian Development Bank, but in the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. So, okay. So this is just a snapshot of all the projects that has been approved and in the pipeline also by the AIB. So there's projects in Pakistan and in Myanmar, mostly focusing on energy-related projects. So again, what is wrong with these infrastructure projects that we would really want to highlight? So infrastructure development projects and investments are seldom politically neutral and not necessarily economically beneficial. So this is especially the case for fragile and conflict-affected countries where many of them have weak or absent systems of governance. So we're really calling for the MDBs for accountability and transparency when they do their investment projects. It's not merely for them to build these roads, energy grid upgrading, but really ensure that when people are affected, they can, if displacement is part of the project, that they can provide adequate compensation to the communities, that the communities are involved right from the get-go in terms of doing the whole project cycle. So these are some of the projects that the NGO Forum ADB has monitored so far, with the glaring issues of policy violations on part of the Asian Development Bank, displacement, lack of adequate compensation. This is also true in the case of the Cambodia Railway project, wherein 4,000 households were affected and they suffered from loss of lands and structures, livelihoods, and up until now they are really suffering from the effect of the railway rehabilitation. Their resettlement site, they do not have adequate water and electricity facilities. Mostly of the affected households are women and children. And when we were also able to visit the site, some of them are also persons with disabilities. And these concerns up until now has not been answered by the ADB. And in the case of the Philippines, one case that really comes to our mind is the mining disaster in Marinduque, the Mar Copper mining disaster. And when we try to raise these concerns to the bank and say that they cannot wash off just because the loan agreement has just lapsed and the people have suffered from the mine tailings, the rivers were contaminated, and there were also instances wherein lives were lost. And the ADB clearly stated that since the project lapsed already, they do not have any responsibility. But then, of course, as CSOs, we would want to bring these issues to the bank that they cannot just absolve any liability from these concerns as a result of their investments. So the real truth behind these infrastructure projects is what I have mentioned so far: massive displacement, involuntary and forced resettlement, militarization and policing of development of mega projects, and not just the people. This is the case that we have seen in Asia. Destruction of the natural environment and life-supporting ecological systems, loss of customary rights over land, natural capital and livelihoods, labor and violence, and even death. So this is multi-dimensional social impacts, and of course, it is the women, children, persons with disabilities, the poor who are really affected by these infrastructure projects. Wherein right from the very beginning, they do not know of these projects. They only come to realize that these projects are being built in their area when you can see already bulldozers literally rampaging through their houses and lands. Yeah, I think so far that's it. And we would entertain more questions from your end after Dr. Kat.
Hey, there are more media persons who are here now. Too bad most of you didn't hear the first presentation, which is actually an introduction to the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. Maybe Luz can recap after I make my presentation. So this presentation is basically, first of all, summarizes what had been presented earlier, but mainly to inform you on how the NGO Forum on the ADB, as a civil society organization, is engaging with institutions like the AIIB as well as the ADB. Okay, now here are the concerns and demands, which had already been elaborated on earlier by the two previous speakers. We are concerned that banks like the AIIB, as well as the ADB, of course, will uphold environmental and social safeguards, especially with respect to the communities, as well as the social sectors that are affected by their projects, which are giant projects. And this refers also to customary rights to land and natural resource, with respect to a framework concerning sustainable development. And customary rights, of course, has to do with the rights, especially of indigenous peoples and indigenous communities, because many of these infrastructure projects are being constructed and implemented in lands that rightfully belong to indigenous communities and indigenous peoples. We are also concerned with human rights, labor rights, women, indigenous peoples, and LGBT rights. In other words, we're concerned with the rights of those who have been marginalized and have not benefited from the economic development model like which banks like AIIB and ADB have been pursuing all these decades, and which we feel AIIB will also be pursuing, since it does not really divert in a major sense from what World Bank, ADB, and other regional investment banks are doing. And we are also concerned that before any projects can be even conceptualized, that they should conduct consultations among affected communities, especially the indigenous peoples, in every stage of project implementation. In other words, at the conceptualization stage, even before anything else has been written down in black and white, they must consult not only the business community, which is actually their priority, but also the affected communities. So this would be the demands of civil society on AIIB, which are virtually the same demands that we have been asking of the Asian Development Bank. First of all, full compliance with the safeguard policy statement. We'll elaborate on that later. In other words, there should be public information that should comply with other bank policies, particularly the safeguard policy statement. And then in terms of transparency, as well as full disclosure, there should be mandatory information on accountability mechanisms for AIIB. And this must be included as a mandatory component of each AIIB funded or even co-financed, especially co-financed projects. The same concern relates to local grievance redress mechanisms Now, just like the ADB, we expect the AIIB to only have a local grievance redress mechanism. In other words, it's an internal type of mechanism for addressing grievances, complaints about AIIB projects. Now, of course, as with the ADB, we been demanding that immunity of ADB to suits must be lifted, and we will be demanding the same for AIIB, so that communities will be able to submit their complaints and seek resolution to their problems, not only within the internally bank structures, but even outside, especially with respect to national government laws and regulations, against which banks like AIIB and ADB are immune from being called to court for any disturbances, any negative impact on the social and environmental aspects. Now, how do we monitor? So, civil society engagement on AIIB will gravitate around these areas. First of all, the NGO Forum on ADB has been the primary civil society regional mechanism for holding the ADB accountable. And in line with this, we have also included now the new kid on the block, which is AIIB. And it's an Asia-wide forum with member organizations in practically all ADB member organizations. And eventually we will also cover all AIIB member countries. We will also co-influence the groups that are based in China, because AIIB is based in Beijing, as we all know, being the headquarters, and also being, of course, the main promoter and convener of AIIB. European IFI, or International Financial Organizations, there are forums in Europe where we have contacts and we have wide networks, but also non-regional groups, meaning groups outside the AIIB framework, international organizations, and funders, or as they like to be called, partners. So the targets basically are, well, of course, the headquarters of the AIIB in Beijing, but also the Manila ADB headquarters. So we also tend to conflate ADB and AIIB because original fears that the two would actually compete with each other doesn't seem to be true anymore, because many of the projects that are in the pipeline are actually co-financed by AIIB and ADB. So the two currently would be working hand in glove with each other. We also target the non-resident board of the AIIB. These are equivalent to the executive directors of the ADB, who comprise the governing board of the AIIB. So what we have here is that each member country has a representative of the governing board. If there are 77 member countries as of me, then there are 77 members of the governing board. For the Philippines, I understand it's no less than the Philippine ambassador to China, Chito Santa Romana, who will sit on the governing board of the AIIB, representing the Philippines. He is based in Beijing, of course. And the project sites of the AIIB, of course, covers the entire Asian continent, Asia, South Asia, Southeast Asia, Central Asia, and even beyond in terms of our targets. As pointed out earlier by Luz, there are 77 members as of May 2017. They started with 56. Now they've gone up to 77. And it's projected that by the end of the year, there will be 85 member countries of ADB. Take note, the US is not a member of the AIIB. Everyone else is a member, and even the strongest allies of the US have signed on to the AIIB, to the consternation, of course, of the United States. Okay, so how do we monitor uh, uh, either AIIB solely financed projects or AIIB co-financed projects. We do it at a very early stage, or even before there is any stage. There are any rumors, if there is a whiff of an AIIB project that is being thought of, we immediately monitor that project. So even before there is any conceptualization, even before there is any pre-board approval of the AIIB, NGO Forum will be there to monitor such plans. And of course, at the project implementation stage, even more, we have to be there. After the project has been implemented, we want to make use of grievance mechanisms in place, hopefully, so that we can highlight any possible impacts, especially negative impacts of such projects. And then, of course, just like we have been doing with the ADB, we will engage the bank headquarters. We have already established contacts with no less than the president of the AIIB, who incidentally is a former vice president of the World Bank. Management, operations, information disclosure, and accountability mechanisms. So in terms of immediate response and long-term institutional response, we seek to engage the executive directors and board of governors of the banks. All civil society positions and demands must have the mandate from the affected communities on the ground. One unique characteristic of the NGO Forum is that we're not only composed of civil society organizations, but also people's organizations and grassroots organizations who can monitor on the ground exactly what is taking place in terms of the implementation of these bank projects. But of course, we will make sure that we do not risk the security of affected communities while getting their explicit consent on our monitoring activities. Thank you.
All right. We are open to some of your questions. Are there any clarifications?
Deltro. Ayun na po, papaliwanag na po. Papaliwanag na po.
The second annual governors meeting will be held in Korea. It will be on June 16 to 18. It will be at the International Convention Center. Next slide. The first AGM was held in Beijing on June 25, 2016. The government of China, which spearheaded the establishment of AIIB, hosted its first annual meeting, and then the municipality provided significant support for this. This year, in 2017, the AGM will be held in Jeju in cooperation with Korea, the Korean government. Its main theme is called Sustainable Infrastructure. In that case, mainly the different programs, we can send you copies of the program that they are planning to hold in Jeju, are mainly on infrastructure projects. So they will be talking very big on energy, alternative energy sources, and all those renewables. But of course, what we saw was that most of the invited organizations are big names that include private companies, government authorities, and then also some other big NGOs. Now, during the first AGM, President Jim Lee-kun reported to the bank's progress. During its first 6 months, he noted that on June 24, the approval of the first 4 loans of power, transport, and urban investments in Bangladesh, Indonesia, Pakistan, and Tajikistan, totaling to $509 million. Highlighted was also the recent approval of what we call the special funds to support members in the preparation of bankable projects. The government of China has made the first commitment to the fund with a combination of $50 million, which will allow the fund to begin operations in the fall of 2016. Again, China had the biggest contribution for this. Now, hand in hand or together with or parallel with this, activities that AIIB has organized, we in CSOs also have come up with the following engagements as well as activities. CSOs led by NGO Forum has organized meetings with the AIIB management on policies and strategies related to energy, safeguards, accountability, and information disclosure. So we will be providing you some news briefs on this while the whole AGM is going on. So it will be important to highlight what are the results of these meetings that we have with the management. Right now, we just heard that the energy sector strategy has been out and it will now be approved during the AGM. It's one of the first policies that aside from the environmental and social safeguards framework, the ESS or the environmental sector strategy, the energy sector strategy is now going to be approved also. What's on the pipeline is the accountability mechanism and the information disclosure that we have. So these are the activities that we have for the AGM. Or maybe I can
Yes,
recap the first slides.
The Belt Road po.
It will be important to note that there is no formal statement.
Ate, yung isang mic daw po yung gamitin niyo po. Okay po.
So, as we mentioned earlier, there is no formal statement linking AIIB with the BRI, the Belt Road Initiative. But based on how we see the membership, can you project something on the membership? No, down. Some more. Yes. Here, you will see that these are the member countries of the AIIB. And you will see in the route here, this is also where the Belt Road Initiative will be running through. So we see that maybe they are not related to each other, but they have, or they seem to be coming into sort of congruency with each other. Because what they want to do, or at least that's what we've been hearing from based on our research, is that AIIB will be funding or will be the source of funding when they start building the Belt Road projects. Okay?
Yung risk na lang po.
Yes. What are the risks? As mentioned by Anne and Professor Dr. Taden, there is an increase in financing of large projects that come with potentially significant social and environmental risks. It's very important that based on our experience of big dams and energy projects, these have been or these have occurred already. So we see also that Chinese companies and financial institutions and MDBs are still developing their capacities in dealing with such risks. The OBOR or the BRI makes a general commitment to environmental and social responsibility, but so far we don't see any binding framework that has come out. Increased availability of financing infrastructure may help fill the gaps and promote further development. That is true. That's very much accepted. But if they are not managed appropriately, this could lead to pollution, badly managed displacement, social conflict, and political tensions. Right now, the difference is that when we started with ADB, there were no Paris declarations, there were no climate change going on. But right now, most countries are signatories, including Japan, China, and the USA. You'll see, they say internally, President Trump declared they're bolting out of the Paris Declaration or Paris Agreement, but it seems internally they have not really agreed on it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what I heard. And so at least with this declaration, the countries are really, it's mandatory that they live within their provisions of this agreement. Okay, let me open the floor if you have any questions. Yes, sir. Could you acknowledge your name, or give your name and your... Yeah.
Ako na po.
Thank you.
Ma'am,
Pwede po tayo mag-Tagalog, ha? Nag-English na po kami.
Anyway, ma'am, good morning po. Ma'am, doon po sa risk, by the way, I'm Janice Costa po sa Radyo Inquirer. Doon po sa risk, pwede pong pakiano yung posibleng political tensions na sinasabi niyo with regards dun sa Silk Road po ba yun? And yung environmental risk na sinasabi niyo po, ito po bang mga proyektong ito hindi po pag-iisipan? Kaya magdudulot ng risk sa kapaligiran po?
Okay. Maybe Doc Talon can help me out on this. When we spoke of it, nung sinabi, it's okay, when we spoke of the risks, we were not talking of coming from just talking. We monitored the Asian Development Bank's projects and investments since 1992. And we have clear basis for saying it. Now, with the infrastructure projects that are being implemented and also on the pipeline, they definitely will focus on mega projects or big projects. So the building of dams, the continuing support of building coal power plants, which we already saw in our experience that this is a dirty technology, although under what they call now the clean technology, they are promoting, they are saying that in spite of the fact that we want to build coal, or these are the two positions that are now coming out. They will not build new power plants or coal, but in case there is a need for it, then they will go on and build. So that's the precaution that they said. In their statement, or in their energy statement, they said no more coal, but if there is really a need, then we will go on and continue with it. Now, they are also promoting right now clean coal. They call it the clean coal technology. So meaning they will make use of certain high-tech processes to ensure that the kind of coal, or it will not have any residues or any pollutants that will come out. But you see, there are two things that based on our experience. One is that even if you keep a clean coal, the danger of still producing all these pollutants are still there. Two, when you speak of, because it was the same thing they mentioned about the nuclear. They will not build nuclear, but if there is a need, they will also still continue with it. So I'm talking about the AIIT, by the way. So these are the risks in terms of environment that I was talking about. Now the political tension, in our experience, ADB funded before conflict or governments that are not that are repressive governments. So along the belt, there are countries like this. And because of that, they will create more tension among the different relationships of countries also. Maybe, Prof.
Well, with respect to political tensions, as we have seen in the past, wherever there are mega projects that have a negative impact on communities in terms of displacement, dislocation, loss of livelihood, loss of ancestral lands, and then of course massive environmental impact in terms of destroying the ecology of the place where these mega projects have been put in. This actually leads to social tensions among the community. If you will recall, during the Marcos regime, the World Bank funded Chico River Dam project led to the rise of the New People's Army in the Cordilleras. That was the main reason why the New People's Army was able to organize among the indigenous communities in the Cordilleras, especially among the Kalingas and the Bontocs, which led to the rise of romantic characters like Conrado Balueg, former priest, and the like. So this scenario is something that has happened before. And since we observe that the mega projects that ABB and AIIB also is going to implement are of the same character and of the same, based on the same assumptions, and also based on the same design, and also based on a almost total disregard for social and environmental impact, then that is where the political tensions will come in, leading to political unrest, possible even local rebellions that will erupt.
Sir, mangyayari pa rin po yan kahit meron tayong gobyerno ganito ngayon na medyo sinasabi baluktot man may political
Ibig sabihin.
Inaano niyo sir, iano ko lang po yung sinasabi niyo na historically yung mga projects po with our government, halimbawa po receptive sila sa mga ganyang projects, do you think magkakaroon pa rin po may NPA na bago na uusbong, may mga
kung yun yung mapapansin, dun sa mga minahan, the mining areas in the Caraga region, that is where all the big mining projects are. And many of these are funded by foreign sources, Japan, China,
Australia,
illegal deposits. That is where the highest concentration is of unrest in Mindanao, in eastern Mindanao. That is where the NPA is strongest because of all these development projects, including infrastructure projects, mining projects that are taking place. Then you also have Davao, where all of these projects, where many of these big projects are concentrated, where many foreign local investors have put up their agribusiness and other types of plantation economies. That is also where the NPA is strongest. So you can see the correlation. It's still going on. We're not just talking of history. We're talking also of contemporary events and contemporary conditions.
Dagdag ko lang po, yung sabi niyo kung ang isang gobyerno ay mas receptive, meron pa rin ba magiging risks? Kadalasan po, dahil nga ang nais ng gobyerno natin ay talagang mapaunlad yung bansa, to the extent na hindi na nila i-consider yung social and environmental considerations. Anong ibig sabihin nito? May mga bansa kasi na nais lang makakuha na ng pondo. Pondohan yung ganito, pondohan ng ganyan. Kahit na sinasabi natin na hindi na kailangan pang i-consider ang environment. Of course, dapat talaga i-consider. Pero may tendency kasi ang gobyerno, lalo na kung halimbawa ay isang diktadura o isang fragile country na tinatawag, hindi na nila masyado i-consider ang mga ganitong mga aspeto. I'll give you an example. The energy, the basic requirement of the country in terms of energy security, meaning that the government would want to ensure that there is a supply of electricity, then the need to set up any form or kind of energy projects to supply such an energy will be undertaken by any kind of government. Because on top of their mind, we need electricity. I think all of you are aware of that. Even in China, I was talking to our Chinese partners. One Chinese group said, in the rural communities, we continue to experience no electricity. Now, if in one way or another, the supply of energy coming from coal will provide such a supply of electricity, then they will pursue this project. The only reason that China has stopped, or at least has moratorium of coal plant building in China, is because they have already reached their coal cap. Meaning they cannot go beyond that anymore as accepted in the agreement. So they are now, they have a moratorium on the building of coal plants in China already. Sir, I hope I answered your question. Is there any other clarification? Yes, ma'am. I'll give the floor first to our lady.
Gandang panghali po. I'm Celerina Monte from the Daily Manila Shimbun, Japanese newspaper. I'm wondering, are you against or not really in favor, but with the AIIB operating here in the Philippines?
I don't think the AIIB will operate in the Philippines.
No, to finance projects.
Yes, of course. Yeah, you might see us as against any projects, development projects. But no, all we're saying is that the project should be really pro-people. It should be able to consult the kind of development and projects that are really in the community. Because based on our experience, very often a project is done here not because for the community, but to supply the business.
So, since you've been watching or monitoring ADB since 1992, how do you think your organization could, play a role in, as far as AIIB is concerned? Like, specifically, what actions are you going to undertake? Because just like what Sir mentioned earlier, we wanted that this immunity from suit by AIIB officials also be lifted, but in the case of ADB, I think it did not happen.
Well, we act as the watchdogs of institutions like ADB and AIIB. That is our function. It's a civil society organization. We monitor, we watch, and we bring to the public's attention any issues and concerns that affect communities, that affect the environment, that affect those peoples who will be unduly disadvantaged by any of these projects. That's what CSOs or NGOs are here in this world for. Because without us, then governments and the private sector and the business community will be free to do what they've been doing. With disregarding people's concerns, communities. So we are there actually to even help governments and these banks do what is right for the people and for the communities and especially for the environment. That is our function in this whole global situation.
If you were to be asked what specific projects you want AIIB to finance?
Nothing specific, but we just laid out the guidelines and the conditions under which we feel these projects should be implemented. Safeguards mechanisms are in place. People's rights in terms of their land, their livelihood, their ancestral lands, labor rights, women's rights, and even LGBT rights should be respected. But more important is that even before they can think of any project, they should consult not only us, but especially the communities who are going to be affected by these projects. Even before they can even discuss with governments, they should have that mechanism in place. Now there are mechanisms in place, so that's why we're hoping that they should also be improved, and because the present mechanisms in place are not yet up to standards in terms of protecting people's rights. So we monitor this and try to engage the banks and try to get them to improve their policies, improve the mechanisms that are in place. Because right now, these mechanisms are still wanting.
I have a specific answer to that question. In terms of energy, what types of projects as CSOs are we pushing for? Renewable energy. So stop any fossil fuel projects, but more pursue renewable energy sources. And because it's very hard to move from fossil use to renewable, then we are pushing for a transition plan. How to transition from the current situation to a more renewable. So we're not saying no to this, we're not saying no to that. What we're saying is that pursue one that is really environmentally and socially friendly. And to do that, we are proposing for you to come up with a transition plan. How to move away from the dirty technology and dirty sources of projects and energy, but move along towards a renewable scheme already. Si Sir muna po, and then we can have your time.
I'm Toru Morinaga from same company. Ma'am, I'd like to listen to the specific risk based on AIIB more. Is the risk of the AIIB bigger compared to the each country's own development? And also, I'd like to, what do you think about the way to prevent the bad consequences?
Did I get to your two questions? Are is the AIIB's projects being invested by AIIB going to be more risky, bigger risks? And then the second is that
how to prevent
it. That's a good question also. To clarify, AIIB is not a development bank. So it's an investment bank. So they don't pretend that they are into development projects. This is good. At least they show themselves. Second is that because of that, they have to return their money. They have to get back their money. Now to do that, they are also saying that we want it fast. That's why they say it's lean. In terms of implementing as well as approval, they want it very fast. So they don't go into a lot of these social consultations and yeah, that's the difference. Let's accept it. This is the nature of the bank and this is how they're going to operate. But they say they're clean, meaning they want to promote clean technology as well. Let's see. Now, will it be more risky than ADB? I cannot say that, basically. But indications show that if they do invest more on infrastructure, mega projects, big dams, and all those things, then I believe, personally, I will not say of the organization, that there will be more risks. Okay? But again, as I said, because they're the new kid in the block, they want to show that they are a better kind of bank than their predecessors. The ADB, the World Bank, the EBRD, and all those other development banks. And then, how can we prevent it? Exactly what we're doing or sharing with you. We have our organizations and member groups who are ready to monitor the projects and to ensure that their voices are being part of the decision making in the project implementation. But right now, you are also right, no projects, even if they are approved, have been, we don't see anything yet. It's about to happen yet. Unlike the ADB, they are all there already. In fact, one of the biggest problems of ADB is the legacy problem. Because a lot of these projects are old ones already, like the Cambodian project and the Marinduque project. They are old and they say, okay, our part is closed, we're not part of this anymore. But since the dirt, the pollution, and the social impact are still there, then we want them to do something about it. And it's the same for AIIB. By the way, I'd like to add, in the case of AIIB, when they do co-financing, they usually look into the old projects and then they renew the contract. So they refurbish their the contract so that they can. One specific project is on Tarbella. This is a legacy problem also. It's an old project, but they are now again opening it up already. I hope I answered your question, sir. Yes, ma'am. Let's have one last question and then we'll have our lunch.
So, ma'am, sa kanina standard po.
Apo.
So, like, to make it clear, yung AIB, is there any chance or have you monitored that a project is coming to the Philippines, yung AIB? Or hindi kami ma-enlighten, tapos yung if ADB we're very sure na may mga projects here in the Philippines.
Apo.
What are the projects that are being monitored by your group?
Yes. If you're talking the Philippines, there is an upcoming transport. There's a transport being.
Okay lang po.
I'm not so familiar with the Philippines. I'm familiar with the other countries. There is one in Liaoning, and that's in Myanmar. Yeah. There's one project already in Myanmar. We have the M4 in Pakistan. We have one in Tarbella, the Tarbella project, as well as Georgia. Now in the Philippines, I know there is one that is about to be approved or has already some negotiations with AIIB. I know it's a transport project.
Yung Philippine Rapid Bus po.
Yes, the Philippine Rapid Bus.
Yun yata yung hiniram.
Oo.
Pero double check na lang po.
No, they haven't started yet. Or it's not there yet. Did I get it right?
ADB. Mga projects daw na ADB sa Philippines na monitor natin.
For the ADB projects that the forum are monitoring, we have supported the Nagacol power plant. There's also a ongoing complaint at ADB's accountability mechanism. So that's one. And then in ADB's 50th year of operations, we have also supported the groups in Marinduque for the Marcopper mining disaster. So we would just want to elevate again all of their ongoing concerns. And then we have also supported several case studies that were done by our partner CSOs in Mindanao, the integrated river management system that's also being funded by ADB. So in these projects that we are monitoring, either we are helping our partner CSOs if they would want, and if the local communities would also want to file an official complaint to ADB's accountability mechanism. So that's one avenue that we are doing in terms of helping them out. Or we also provide support in terms of conducting either case studies or research, because we all know for a fact that there's really not enough literature or enough awareness that these kinds of displacement, payment of inadequate compensation, it's not really there's lack of awareness still on these issues that's being faced by local communities. In terms of the AIIB projects that will be done here in the Philippines, there's no approved yet. I think that's the one that we can confirm, but they're subject for negotiation, and one of which is the bus,
Railway something.
So, ma'am, one last question.
Sige po.
Regarding naman public issue, yung issue pa ba na yun, yung rehabilitation or something?
No, hindi pa.
Kasi matagal na yun eh. Sila
Yun po yung hina-highlight po ng grupo namin at yung mga kasama po namin sa ground na kahit na ilang dekada na po yung trahedya na nangyari po sa Marcomper, pinipilit pa rin po ng ADB na, again, dahil sarado na po yung loan covenant, they have absolved full responsibility, whatever the consequences were. So, yun pa rin po yung nilalaban po namin sa ADB na your responsibility doesn't end when the project completion ended also, but as long as there's still impacts that's being felt by the community on the ground, then they should be considered and find ways on how to help them out without providing additional loan, of course.
So, kaya pa yung mga natirang impacts after the completion of the and what are the ADB projects done in the Mercator?
Yung pong pagkasira po ng mga rivers, yung Calacan Bay. Opo.
Pero natin
hinahabol po.
Ano po, may mga contamination po ang mga rivers. It's still going on. Wala po nangyari. So, maybe ang tanong ninyo, ano magagawa ninyo? Mag-ingay po. Kaya nga kami nandito para hingin yung tulong ninyo na maipalabas natin yung mga ganitong concerns, no? That's why we have asked you to come over, because we want you to continue to project and help us inform more people of how we want our development to be. No, we will determine the kind of development we want to pursue, and with that, the kind of responsible investments that banks should have. Because if they don't know it, they will not do it also. Okay, with that, I hope we have enlightened you. In case you have some more questions, please feel free. We will be providing you some more news and some updates on the AGM that's going to take place in Korea. That's why we also wanted to hold this briefing, so that you will be informed of what will be going on and what projects or what policies have been approved so far. Yes, ma'am.
With the upcoming meeting, is there any possibility that your group would submit anything like
Yes.
a position paper?
Yes, yes. We're coming out with our statement during the ATM. We will be providing you such copies. Yes.
More or less, what would be the highlight of the...
We will be there, by the way. We are. There will be 15 representatives, both of local communities, from India, from Bangladesh, Pakistan, from the Philippines, from Indonesia, from the Mekong region, Kyrgyzstan, Central Asia, Russia,
and a lot more.
And a lot more. Oh yeah, we have some international groups as well, like the European groups. We will all be there. So what's the highlight of that statement? Basically pursuing the call for safeguards and sustainable type of energy sources. But we will be providing you with that input. Okay, marami pong salamat. Thank you very much for your presence.